A huge mistake that people make before their divorce and during their divorce is going on to social media and trying to get information there. And really all they're doing is reading people's fishing stories. And we all know what a fishing story is, right? It's where someone talks about their big fishing adventure and then they caught this fish that was this big. It really wasn't that big of a fish, but that's how fishing stories work. People inflate the good parts and they minimize their mistakes. These social media groups, I know as a Gen Xer, we still use Facebook a lot. And there's all these mothers' rights groups and these single moms groups and these are we dating the same guy groups where women get on there and they tell their tale of their divorce. I have a lot of ladies who will come into our office and they'll say, well, I saw that this woman, the husband was forced to do this in their divorce. And she got the kids because the father had done this in divorce. So she got sole custody. Those stories aren't real. And if to the extent that the result is what the spouse or what the person on Facebook said it was, they probably don't understand the legal mechanics behind why that happened. Likewise, on the father's rights groups, I know there's a lot of talk about the judges are corrupt and the lawyers are crooked and all these folks are working against you. I got steamrolled in court because the judge was crooked. What they don't tell you is I showed up to court with a binder full of text messages, but I don't know the rules of evidence and I don't know the rules of civil procedure and I don't know how to get my evidence in because I was representing myself and the other side had a lawyer and they successfully convinced the judge to follow the rules. I didn't get to put on my evidence and I got steamrolled in court. See, they don't tell you that part. They just tell you the judge was corrupt. So there's a lot of fishing stories in those Facebook groups. I encourage you to avoid those. Now, granted, you can read between the lines a lot of times and you can feel a lot of bitterness, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, a lot of pettiness. I don't encourage anyone to go and dwell in all those negative emotions. What you think about, you bring about. If you want to look at what your risks are, what your opportunities are, Google's not a lawyer. Come and get the information you need from a lawyer. Come get it straight from the horse's mouth. If you've watched any of our content, you'll see my wife and I talking about cost-benefit analysis. A lot of the analysis that we do when we're talking about different pieces of a case have to do with whether it's going to be beneficial for our client. There are times where someone comes in and they'll say, hey, my ex-husband is $1,500 behind on his child support and I want to take him to court over my child support. Well, it may cost you $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 to do that case for $1,500 in child support. Okay, that doesn't make sense, or at least that doesn't make sense by itself. There may be other factors that we want to address. We also want to change the custody for the kids. There may be other things that have value that are not a direct dollar for dollar exchange. But one of the things that you should do is get with your lawyer about the cost benefit analysis of starting a case. We routinely turn people away who give us a call. They come in, we talk about their case, and we tell them, you don't have enough yet for a case. This doesn't make sense. The facts that you have are not enough for the court to flip custody. So you're going to spend a bunch of money and get nothing. Obviously, a cost benefit analysis makes sense when we're talking about direct dollar for dollar exchange, but to just file a case and hope for the best is folly. I know on the home and garden channels, there's a lot of shows about DIY. Everyone wants to do it yourself. And those DIY shows, they're giving you instructions and they're showing you how people went through and they fixed this part of their house or they renovated their kitchen or they did this other thing. But also there are TikTok channels devoted to show me this as a flip house without telling me it's a flip house. And then they go around and show all the crappy work that was done and the shoddy workmanship and how this has got to be repaired and that's got to be repaired and this repair was unsafe. And people don't know how to do the repairs, and watching some DIY TV show doesn't freaking help. There's a reason why DIYers run into problems when they're doing a home renovation or they're working on their car, but in family law, it's worse. You are allowed under the Constitution to represent yourself in court. That doesn't mean you should. There are mistakes you can make in the family court that you can't undo later. I'll give you a brief example. I was sitting in court one day waiting for my turn, and a pro se lady, a woman who had represented herself in her divorce, was up at the bench talking to the judge, trying to get the judge to sign the order that divided her husband's retirement account. And the judge told her, he said, "Ma'am, I'm looking in your divorce decree, and you did not award yourself any part of the husband's retirement account. So I can't divide it now." In order to save some money, she did not hire a lawyer, and then she screwed herself out of her half of the husband's retirement because she didn't know how to put that into the order. There's lots of mistakes that people can make, even procedural mistakes. We routinely see people who filed their own case. They went down to the clerk's office and used a fill-in-the-blank form, and they filed a divorce, and then they don't know how to get their spouse served with official notice, so the case can't move forward and eventually it dismisses. There's all kinds of procedural problems about how to set a hearing and how to give notice that a hearing is set. The clerks can't give you advice. The judge can't give you advice. Other lawyers in the courthouse won't give you advice. And all you can do is go to Google or go to social media and read other people's fishing stories about how they made this happen or how they got steamrolled. If you absolutely can't afford a lawyer, you need to look into one of the charities or legal aid or something like that. The law school here in town has a family law clinic. If you for real can't afford an attorney, look for some help. Doing a family law case yourself is so complex. There's such a depth of law. There's statutes, there's case law, and all kinds of other rules that apply. And if you don't get it right, you're going to get a terrible outcome in court, especially if the other side shows up with a lawyer. Because my job as a lawyer is to win for my client, is to do my best for my client. And that means if you're standing there by yourself and I'm going to lawyer, I'm going to beat your arguments, I'm going to use the rules against you, and I'm going to try to destroy your entire case. That's what my duty is to my client. A lawyer will not show you mercy. If you go into court by yourself, you get what you get, and I don't recommend it. How billing works in family law in Texas is confusing for a lot of folks. Under the rules, Texas lawyer can't do a family law case on contingency. We have to be paid as we're doing the case. It can't be a thing where if I win this case for you, then you pay me 40%. That's how they do it in personal injury world, but that's not how family lawyers do it. We're not allowed under the rules. So we have to bill you by the hour, and it's hard to project what that is. I wish I knew, truly. I wish I knew how much a person's divorce was going to cost when they came into my office. Because if I knew it was going to be a $6,300 divorce, I would just charge you $6,300 and we would finish right on time. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know which court we're going to land in. I don't know how facts might change with your kids. I don't know the lawyer that the other spouse is going to hire. I don't know what the judge is going to do on any given day that might complicate our case. There's just a lot of factors that we can't judge. I can't control what the other spouse does. If the other spouse stops paying the mortgage, now we got to have a hearing about whether we got to sell the house. How could we ever predict that at the beginning of a case? So what most lawyers do is charge a retainer. We'll charge basically a down payment. This is the amount of money that we think it takes to get this case started. Sometimes you'll see a lawyer come in really low. They'll come in at $2,500 or $3,500. I can tell you, because we run our business by the numbers, that $3,500 doesn't go very far. If they start out at $3,500, they're going to be hitting you for more payments, and larger payments, because this case is probably going to cost $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, $10,000, $12,000, and your $3,500 retainer is not going to cover that. I think an important service that lawyers can do for their clients is regular and frequent invoicing and billing, so that the client can stay on top of their case. They can read the invoices and see what work has been done and why that work was done and how much that work cost and how much is left in their trust account. If your lawyer is not invoicing you regularly and you have no idea if you have $3,000 left in your account or $12 in your account, I think that is a disservice from the lawyer. When you are starting a case, you need to budget. Budget to make monthly payments. A divorce can cost as much as a car. When you buy a car, you put a down payment and then you budget monthly payments. You need to do that for your case too. In our office, we could set you up on a payment plan where you can easily budget how much money you're going to pay each month. My office is willing to work with you. We're going to do our best to get a payment plan that funds your case and allows you to keep living your standard of living. Reading your invoices and budgeting for the case are important as part of the case, because nothing drives up a client stress like finding out that you owe your lawyer thousands of dollars and you didn't know. If your lawyer is not billing or invoicing as he should, it may be time for another lawyer.